Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syifa Zubaidi with student ID 250105. I want to talk about contextual understanding. The content is social culture context and situational context. In order to develop communicative competence, students need to understand the way speaking and listening can be adjusted to meet the demands of variety of contexts. We also need to be aware of the ways in which spoken language can be manipulated for different purposes. Situational context students learn the purpose, audience, and situation affect the decision and choice that they make. Socio-cultural context students also need to know that social culture belief, values, and assumptions affect those participating and communicating. Students need to understand that what they say and how they say it will be interpreted and evaluated by others. It is important that students understand the way in which context affect the message they are trying to communicate in. Situational context. The decision that students make about their speaking and listening will vary according to the context, as decisions are influenced by the following. The situation are setting in which the speaking and listening takes place. For example, who speaks at assembly, when to speak and when not to speak at the movies, when to speak and when not to speak when there are visitors at home. Situational context, the decision that students make about their speaking and listening will vary according to context. These decisions are influenced by following. 1. The situation or setting in which the speaking and listening takes place. For example, who speaks at assembly, when to speak and when not to speak at home at movies, when to speak and when not to speak when there are visitors at home. The purpose of the speaking and listening, for example, asking for someone for helping, and discussing a book, or delivering a lecture. The physical setting of the communicating. For example, home, classroom, sporting event, public library, and restaurant. Socio-cultural context. Socio-cultural context. There are so many socio-cultural factors that influence the composition or comprehension of spoken text. 1. The way that people use spoken language reflects and shapes their view of the world. Number 2. Speaker and listener are strongly influenced by their gender, ethnicity, and status. Number 3. Spoken language is used to establish relationship and group identity. Number 4. There are many different varieties of English around the world, including varieties and standard English. Its variety reflects and shapes social culture, attitude, and assumption. Speaker and listener make critical decisions when composing and comprehending spoken text. Students need to learn how to vary the language they use according to the context they are in. This is known as training register. Register is made up of 3 components. 1 is file, 2 tenor, and 1. File, who or what is being told about, also known as the topic. Number 2, tenor, the relationship between speaker and listener. Number 3, mode, how the spoken text is being delivered, for example, face-to-face, conversation, or telephone conversation, and a formal presentation. Speaker adjust their speak as they identify with different groups. Number 1 is student as researchers of language. Students need opportunities to discuss how their language knowledge, experience, and perspective influence their speaking and listening choice. Number 2, making comparisons. Students could be involved in comparing speaking and listening in order to investigate the way that different registers are chosen. Number 3, examining speak for a family gathering, being able to examine how speaking and listening adjustment are made in familiar contexts will spark students when they begin to investigate speech adjustment in less familiar contexts. On the table, setting and speak as. action, setting and speak action. Setting the scan. On the setting, following by one, setting the scan, participant and sequence, key, instrumentalities, norms, and gender. Investigating community-based speaking and listening. An investigation might focus on one or more of the following burning questions. One, what function of language were addressed in the event? For example, to question to inform, entertain, or persuade. Number two, what confessions were needed? For example, word and phrase. Number three, what behavior were expected? Number four, what types of listening was required? What response here? Speaker and listener consideration of different points of view and confirm burden are challenging and exciting for you. Interpreting spoken text. Spoken text can be interpreted from different point of view. Students could co-explore point of view by looking at things people might disagree on, such as the following one: grandparents' view on how leisure time should be used, for example, is a factor in point of view. Number two, opinion regarding a movie. For example, the girls and boys have different points of view. Is gender a factor in formulating a point of view? A current controversy in news, for example, in social status, a factor in point of view. Social culture background of language. User will influence their speaking and listening choice. Interpreting gaps and silence. There are gaps and silence in spoken text. Listeners interpret these gaps differently based on their own socio-cultural context. Number two, summing shared knowledge. Speaker might sum the listener share their cultural knowledge and values. And number three, dominant values. Speaker consciously select and use linguistic device to enhance impact are the influence particular audience. Number one, allusion, analogy, anecdote, bribery, count, choice of language, context switching, connotation, continuatives, emphasis, figurative language, flattery, intonation, irony, wit and humor, irrelevance, jargon, nuance, nonverbal language, overgeneralization, parody, and etc. Spoken text can be investigated by and analyzed to reveal their values and assumptions. Developing contextual understanding allows students to interpret this message and to one recognize the spoken texts are not neutral, but to make decisions based on information about their own view and specific topic, and recognize ways in which people are positioned to show our knowledge power. Number four, become aware that language is constructed and manipulated to influence our pursuits. Developing critical awareness. It's important that students understand the language is a dynamic social process that shapes and is shaped by constantly changing social conditions. The use of English is inextricably involved with values, beliefs, and ways of thinking about the world and inhabit. Embedding speaking and listening within the classroom. Studying how spoken text can vary in different contexts is an important focus area for contextual understanding. Teachers should provide a variety of processual contexts in the classroom, such as collaborative activities, plays, simulation, and presentation of learning, focusing on contextual understanding in a unit of work. It is important for teachers to plan and design a variety of contexts that involve children using speaking and listening skills. This allows students to develop the critical awareness needed for using spoken language in ways appropriate to the situation. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.